Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Euan and today I'm joined by, as usual, Angus. Angus, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not doing too bad, Ewan. Maybe not the best kind of week for football, in a entertainment sense for us, but despite that, not doing too bad. What about yourself?
Certainly more entertained than you and Cameron was, aren't we? So, yeah, I'm all good, mate. Decent enough result against Hearts at the weekend. Our women's team got a very good result. Unfortunately, neither of us were able to go, so can't really touch on that. But well done, girls, on another victory in the league. Still maintaining an 11-point gap. And then, I was at Celtic Park last night, and it is what it is when you go to Glasgow. But we'll obviously come on to chat about it all. And we are delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi, UK-based company with a Swedish soul. We are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Angus, the team at Strana sent us out some gear to have a look at as well when they approached us about sponsorship, and it's good quality stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Lovely little jumper got sent over, actually. I was very impressed with it. I wore it to the game against Hearts there. Very, very comfy and, very warm as well. But yeah, good stuff. Very much looking forward to see, what other kind of stuff they're going to be creating. I think they kind of got a vision of, getting involved with a bit more of Scottish football. And I think seeing, maybe some future plans coming across, maybe some throwback kind of attire additions and that. But yeah, very, very much worth checking out, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, jumper's really good quality. Got a wee beanie hat sent as well. Shannon, my missus, is wanting one as well now that she's seen it. So I think I'll be placing a wee order soon for a few more bits and bobs because I like the look of some of this stuff. But yeah, really good quality stuff. So I'd encourage folk to place some orders with them.
Yeah, and thanks very much to the guys for getting involved with us. Absolutely delighted for having them to sponsor the podcast. And people who are listening to our podcast as well can get 10% off using the code Talk Livi. So go and take advantage of that, and try and see what they have to make advantage of this big offer that we've got.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. We'll have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for that too. But as always, you can find this episode as well as all our others on your preferred podcast streaming site. Just search for Talk Livi, so follow us or subscribe to ensure that you don't miss another episode.
We'll kick the episode off by discussing our draw with Hearts as it proved to be a turgid affair at the Tony Macaroni Arena.
Next up, we'll look back at our visit to Celtic Park as the Lions were on the end of a first-half blitz against the champions.
And finally, we'll look ahead to the visit of Kilmarnock in the latest instalment of El Plastico.
It was third versus fourth on Sunday as the Lions welcome Hearts to West Lothian. It wouldn't prove to be a classic though, as it finished goalless in a closely fought affair. And guess what were your thoughts on the game? I think I was scraping the barrel when it came to highlights in the game when I was making points about it, especially in the first half.
Yeah, first half is probably one of those games that we're not going to be keeping long in the memory of us. Try to scroll back to the game just now, thinking of things that happened in the first half. Really quite struggling, in all honesty. I think they switched it around so they actually the first half action, was being played down at your side of the stadium. So I was like, oh, great! Like, maybe all the action's going to be coming our way for the second half. But yeah, it was just a pretty horrible game of football. In all honesty, there wasn't really much quality on show. I think both teams were trying to play it long. I think we were trying to do so with wind against us. It was blown back, but like the wind was, absolutely dreadful on the game on Sunday there. Hearts had probably one chance. It was probably, gilt edge. I think Shanklin puts the ball across, and there's I think about two or three players all lining up, and none of them hit it into the back of net, much to our joy. But yeah, in the first half, it was just a battle in all honesty, and it was just nobody really getting their foot on the ball, which is the thing that kind of annoys me whenever people are talking about oh, you can't play any football on like the AstroTurf and all of that. There was zero attempt from Hearts to play any football on the deck in the game. Both teams were didn't play to the conditions well at all. The wind was the biggest factor in the game for me, and you could see that in the first half with Hearts' long balls over the top being dragged out of the park by about a good like 15 yards, like nowhere near a player, and then us try to get it forward and it getting hung up. And that is literally the story of that first half. But some fans will want you to think that Hearts were trying to play their 2009-10 Barcelona tiki taka as usual. All right, cool. But yeah, going into the second half, it was a lot. I would say it was a lot better in terms of intensity and in terms of things actually kind of being created a little bit more. I think it seemed that there was more chances for a goal to happen, probably from a Hearts point of view, more so than ourselves. I think Stephen Humphreys plays the boy Kual through, who in all honesty should be scoring. 1-on-1 with Shamal George. Shamal does what a goalkeeper should do, makes himself big. Kual kind of hits it straight at him first time. Then the rebound, Shamal's able to like dive upon it once he gets like the second chance there as well. So I think that was a bit of a let off for us. In all honesty, I think again we're talking about the issues with the pitch and whatnot. Are we supposed to be saying that that was the reason as to why Kual missed that, or he just bottled the chance with a lack of composure? I think it's probably more so that, to be honest with you. But yeah, in terms of that, not an awful lot of clear cut chances. I think Humphreys had one from range that Shamal's made a good save for. We had one as well with boys, kind of driving forward and having like a driven shot that Xander Clark was forced to parry. But out with of that, Euan, in all honesty, there wasn't really too much in it to talk about in terms of like clear chances. No keepers being, really brought into too much action to, to make massive saves to kind of keep us into the game. Yeah, just kind of a dull, turgid kind of game. I think to be fair, we'd have taken a draw before the game, in all honesty. But yeah, I think maybe wasn't a great one for the neutral.
Yeah, of course the Sky Sports cameras were there as well, just to add to the criticism of the pitch and everything like that as well. Nah, look, I think it was two teams that are in relatively decent form just now. Couldn't really break each other down. As you say, I looked at Hearts' starting team, and after what Laurie had said, I actually thought Hearts were quite conservative in their team selection. I thought it was quite defensive as well in terms of the centre midfield options. Obviously no Snodgrass, no Barry Mackay in the team either, so I thought they were quite conservative. And to talk about the Euan Cameron rant on Twitter, when you don't make an attempt to play football on the surface, it's going to look bad. So yeah. I don't think either team really made a great effort in terms of trying to play football on the surface.
You're talking about the fine institution, the fine footballing institution that is Heart of Mid Lothian. There's no way, Euan. You try to say that Hearts aren't playing, that beautiful football.
Certainly on Sunday, they were not. And I think Euan Cameron likes to try and appeal to the moon howlers and knuckle draggers of Scottish football fans who have this prehistoric view on the artificial surfaces when, in the grand scheme of things, almost 50% of the SPFL clubs have them. So I think they're staying around, Euan. Unlucky, mate. But it also added that Stephen Humphreys then had a dig at the pitch afterwards as well. Again, Stephen, I've seen some of the pitches you would have been playing on down south, and I tell you what, ours is probably a damn sight better. So, yeah, as I say,
with the Humphreys one. Is he blaming the pitch for that absolutely dreadful touch that he took when they were 2-3-on-1 against Omiyonga in the first half? Is that what the
Exactly.
pitch is blamed for? Simply, this is the thing with the pitch. Is the pitch the reason why Hearts didn't win that game, or is the reason Hearts didn't win that game a complete lack of quality from their own players? You're talking about two players running through on goal, 1-on-1, against a defender, with players like ending up supporting. He had, was it Oda? And I think is that his
Yeah.
name? And Humphreys as well. And he had Kual missing 2 Gilly chances. Nothing to do with them though. Nothing to do with that lack of quality on the ball. It's all to do with the pitch somehow. Humphreys with an absolute donkey of a touch. Yeah, okay.
And Robbie Nielsen obviously got in on the act as well. Grumpy git that he is, but nah,
We'll see.
I mean,
We'll see what his feeling about artificial surfaces are if he comes back with a hair transplant in the next coming years.
he's got some artificial turf on his head.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, but to kind of speak about the actual game itself, as you say, the first half was kind of petered into a bit of nothingness. After 5 minutes, I turned round to Andy and was like, "This isn't great, is it?" And it was very back to front. The game, as you say, the wind was playing a bit of havoc. I think probably in the first half we maybe edged it in terms of trying to play a little bit. Hearts seemed to cause us a few problems. They had a few opportunities on the counter-attack, but as you say, it was maybe a poor touch or the wrong pass or things like that meant that they didn't really get an opportunity from it. In terms of opportunities in the game, Shanklin had a header which went over the bar from memory from a set play. Bruce Anderson had a chance where Penrice has cut the ball back, should maybe do a little bit better with, and the attempt's blocked. Stephen Kelly then had one, a Devlin crossed the back post. Again, he maybe should take the shot on rather than try to put it back across the face. And then, as you say, maybe the gilt edge chance of the half is that one Shanklin's put across that there's 2 or 3 Hearts players all coming in at the back post and nobody gets a touch in it. But second half, I think Hearts, certainly in the first 15 minutes, came out with a lot more intensity, and the boy from Newcastle, Kual, certainly caused us a few problems just running in behind in terms of his pace. And that opportunity, as you say, Shamal's done everything you want your keeper to do. He's not committed, he's not gone to ground, he's stayed big. Obviously the shot straight at him, but he's back up again for the rebound as well. And I think we then made a tactical tweak in the game. Davy changed the shape ever so slightly, went to a back 3. As Laurie said, Shanklin was kind of dropping off into that number 10 role, and Omiyonga then just sat on within 5 to 10 yards of Shanklin for the remainder of the game. And I think the game then once again just kind of petered into what the first half was. It was just 2 teams really cancelling each other out. Albeit I think we had a couple of opportunities. Bradley's had one, a headed chance where Clark's came steaming out his goal. He's not made any good connection with it. As you mentioned, Humphreys had that effort as well. Bradley's then had that lob, which Kai Rose has done magnificently well to clear it off the line. And then Morgan Boyce had that strike where he kind of stepped out the back 3 and had an effort on goal. But it's a save you'd expect a keeper of the qualities and a Clark to make. But it was a very close game, as the games have been this season with Hearts, which shows you the progress that we've made from last season. As Davey kind of touched on, Hearts comfortably beat us at Tynecastle twice last season, albeit we gave them a big scare at Livi, but they still got the job done and got to 3 points, whilst this season we're 5 points from the 3 games against Hearts. So it's a big improvement for a team that I still see as being the clear third best team in the country. So, and they're a team that were in very good form up until last night's result against Rangers. I think they were 9 unbeaten. So it was a good point. As you say, it's a point I would have taken before the game. And we'd spoken about this before the World Cup break, that January could be a make or break month for us in terms of where we're looking to be come the end of the season. And I think we've come through the month pretty much unscathed, not lost the game in January. And we're going into a tough run of fixtures in February, which started last night with Celtic away. But it's a point I would have taken, and I think a little bit of credit has to go to Davy, because there was a point at the start of the first half I thought Hearts were going to go and edge that game and nick a winner. And Davy made that tweak tactically, which, as I say, just essentially cancelled each other out and made that game peter into what it was in the first half.
Yeah, full credit, and I think the players as well. Although it's one of those games that's not so much of a spectacle to watch, I think from a defensive aspect as well, especially the balls over the top, just that kind of like sheer concentration in that for the most part. I thought Fitzwater and Boyce had a good game in the back line. Penrice and Devlin, still doing a solid job, and obviously Shamal there as well. I think you're looking from that kind of battling performance. I mean, we kind of talk about that with the ladies team quite a lot about where those battling performances have done like a lot in improving the fortunes in certain games. That's kind of what's happened there on Sunday is that kind of really dug in, kind of maybe sacrificed playing that kind of getting on the ball a wee bit more and kind of just kind of digging in deep to to get like a kind of a just a point well earned, just off the back of just being solid. In all honesty, that as well. I think a couple of players, to kind of like single out for praise. I think obviously Shamal George for those kind of big saves and the big moments. Goalkeepers in these kind of games, if you're not having an awful lot to do, maybe can like turn off at times, especially when you're kind of faced with big massive chances like that. He stood up strong and got us a got himself a very good clean sheet. I think Stefan Omyonga in the middle of the park as well was absolutely tremendous. Just battling everywhere. A classic performance from him. Just being everywhere, just getting on the ball. Spreading the play out in that as well. But yeah, I think as well. I continue to feel sorry for Bruce Anderson up top. That it's yet another game that he's been kind of isolated for a little bit by himself. Not an awful lot of service to him, an awful lot of hard work by himself. To try and face up against like a back three of sorts. But yeah, fair play to Bruce for continuing to kind of put in a decent shift without getting the things that strikers play up there for. In all honesty,
Yeah, to kind of touch on Shamal George, I don't think we've maybe given enough praise to Shamal since he's come in to the club. The biggest compliment I can give him is that I don't need to talk about him that often. Whilst I felt for the last couple of seasons we've spoke about errors from our goalkeepers and things like that. While Shamal is just a very calm presence at the back, I find. And I think that echoes into the back four as well, just that calm presence behind you. And you know that he's not really going to make a mistake. He's very composed on the ball as well when the ball does come back to him. And it's the biggest credit I can pay to Shamal is that I don't feel the need to talk about him every week. And that's probably a good thing to have with a goalkeeper. Omyonga as well. I thought Omyonga done the dirty side of the game really well on Sunday. And as I say, when he had that job to do to kind of man-mark Shankland, he took him out the game essentially in the second half when that tweak was made. In terms of on the ball, maybe, and this goes for pretty much the 22 players plus subs that came on the park, the quality maybe wasn't there. But in terms of his defensive responsibilities, I thought Stefan was fantastic again. It's just what you come to expect of the wee man. He's tenacious. He likes to get stuck in, and it's what fans love in a player, that somebody that's just willing to do that graft for the team. But yeah, there was a couple of still very good individual performances, but at the end of the day, a point against the team that's sitting third, I think most Livi fans would have taken that prior to kick-off.
the Lions made the trip to Glasgow to take on Celtic, and despite a battling performance, a clinical first half performance by Celtic would prove the difference as they ran out 3-0 winners. Euan, you were one of the 27 odd who made the trip along. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, I've seen plenty of pictures already of the mass Livingston support that was there yesterday evening. Yeah, I mean, at £32 a pop, is it any real surprise?
I'm just going to say the boycott worked, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly, the boycott. I stupidly didn't take part in the boycott because I'm stupid and I'm a sucker for punishment, and I still do these things to myself. But nah, I mean, we spoke about it in the preview. We expected us to go with a back three, back five, which is exactly what materialised. Iobelai came back in to play into the back three, albeit maybe slightly different shape in midfield. Shinnie seemed to be the one that was getting up in support most often of Bruce if the ball did get forward, to try and give us that out ball, and somebody up top with Bruce to try and link the game a little bit. I mean, mentioned in previous games, where Shinnie's played in almost that 10 role. He has been quite effective this month. But yeah, it sounds really stupid, but see the first half hour, I think we did really well, personally. Yes, Celtic had, as you'd expect at Celtic Park, they dominated the ball. They got into the wide areas. They had a lot of balls across our box or in at the front post to Shamal George. But in terms of clear-cut opportunities, Shamal's goal wasn't being peppered. He wasn't being forced into a lot of saves. And then a bit of quality shone through for Celtic. Greg Taylor's strike, it's a fantastic strike, arrowed into the top corner. Could we maybe get out a little bit quicker to him? Possibly. But having watched the highlights back on Sports Scene, I hadn't actually appreciated that Greg Taylor had fallen down on the edge of the box. And I think players have almost just ignored him because he's on the ground, and then he's got back up and he's ended up finding himself inside the 18-yard box with a bit of space to have the strike. And the killer blow is the second goal. Conceding that so quick fire after the first one, and that one's very much avoidable. I don't know why Io's trying to hook that. He needs to be a little bit more aware of his surroundings there. Because let's be honest, when we're defending our box the way we are, there's going to be bodies everywhere in that box, and there's an opportunity that can happen. So he needs to be a little bit more aware in that situation. And the second goal's very lucky. It's just smacked Maeda in the face and then flew into the back of the net. There's not a lot Shamal George can do in that instance. We did have a couple of wee sniffs in the first half. Shinnie had a strike which kind of went a wee bit high and wide. Anderson's the one that's possibly gets us back in the game. He's taken advantage of a slip. I think it was Carter Vickers that slipped. Good effort by Bruce off the post. It's came back out the edge of the box for Omiyonga. He's dragged his shot. Shinnie's almost managed to turn it goal bound. But had we got that goal, I think it was 5 minutes before half time, maybe it becomes a similar game to the one just before Christmas. If you can get in at half time 2-1, but the third goal just completely kills it, and it's a case of damage limitations at that point. And the third goal's poor from our point of view. I know VAR had a look for a foul on Penrice. Don't think it's a foul personally, so to pull the game back, and then they obviously had a look for an offside. No offside there either. Omiyonga has to do a little bit better in the first instance with the ball over the top. And then I think Fitzy's probably showing Kyogo where he wants to go. All the space was down the outside for Kyogo to go and get the shot away. I think he maybe needs to force him back inside a little bit, but it's a good finish by Kyogo. He's been lethal this season in front of goal. And as I say, second half, it's a case of damage limitations and trying not to come out on the end of an absolute doing. And fair play to the team. I think they stuck at their task, albeit I think Celtic still had a couple of opportunities. Maeda's had one he really should bury. I think Cross has come into the 6-yard box and he's put it well wide in the end, and Kyogo had a decent chance at the front post, but Jack Fitzwater's done enough to kind of snuff that one out. But again, second half, I don't think Celtic peppered our goal as such. I don't think Shamal's been forced into a great deal of big saves that he's had to make to keep the score down. So I think there's aspects of it you can take positives from, but at the end of the day, when I said this in the preview, for us to go there and get a result, Celtic need to be playing at 50-60% of their usual capacity, and us being at 100% to even stand a chance of picking up a result. That's the golfing quality. You saw the players that they're bringing off the bench. Brought Aaron Moy, an Australian internationalist. Brought Leela Bada, an Israeli internationalist. David Turnbull's been capped for Scotland. The quality and depth that Celtic have, it's very difficult to go there and expect to get a result. And I think Jason Holt and his comments that he made to Carson kind of summed it up. It's difficult to control a game when you don't have the ball for 80% of the game. And he's absolutely bang on the money. Yes, you can defend your box, but you're not in control of it. Celtic have that quality to open us up, and that's exactly what happened with the first goal.
There's not really anything else you can say about a game like this, to be honest. I think it's, in all honesty, we go into games against Parkhead and, half your head is hoping for, a bit of magic that can get us a point or even better free. But the other half of your head's just like, this is very much what's probably going to happen in all honesty. And and it's not just a matter of us thinking that. Every team in Scotland will be kind of thinking that as well, especially with the run of form that Celtic are on. I think it's 100% home record that Celtic have, not even dropping any points at home at all. Like they're just absolutely ruthless there at the moment. We can only it's hard to kind of analyze or dissect that because it is essentially that kind of one-off game. You can't really look into it as a game that's given what you can take from into the next game, or what will reflect what will happen in the next upcoming ones. I guess the one thing you can say about that is, he went down 3-0 at half time, didn't capitulate. It shows a little bit of character. And honestly, other than that, what is there else left to kind of analyse? Just other than just kind of hold your hands up and just say, Celtic are a much better team, biggest club in the country, biggest fan base, most money, can chuck about, whatever like that. Against us, who've probably got the opposite of all those things in the division at least. Fair play to Celtic, they did the job that they needed to do, and we'll brush it off, and we'll look on to the next game in all honesty.
There's just a couple of points about my visit from Celtic Park that I want to enlighten people on. And I know Scott McCoy listens in when we do our reviews of the games on the Homeboys podcast, and he was asking me previously about how I felt about Celtic Park, and there's just a few things I need to query, right? The pricing at the Pie Hut. Why is a Scotch pie £3.13? Why is it £3.13? I really want to know why it's like 3 pence on the end of stuff and it's not, decimals of 5. It's something that's just wound me up the last couple of times I've been there. Some might say, Angus, it really does my fox in. But
you just said that there and it's just giving me like an aneurysm.
And I was at the game where Andy and Callum McKinven was there as well, and we decided to sit a bit further back so that we didn't have a worm's eye view of the game at Celtic Park for a change. And they ended up sending 6 stewards up to ask us to move 3 rows because apparently we had breached some tape to sit in an empty row, essentially. No Celtic fans behind us or anything like that. Now, might add, there was no tape there, but apparently we had breached some unbreachable tape and sat further back because at the end of the day, we didn't want to, have a really close look at the grass. We wanted to actually see patterns of play in the game as a whole. And yeah, they ended up sitting 5 stewards behind us so that we couldn't go any further back. One of them leapt out his seat so quickly when Callum went to go and pick up his juice, which was back a couple of rows behind. It was quite bizarre. I think they must have had a very boring evening, to be honest, to try and manipulate where the barely 40 Livingston fans were sitting at the way end at Celtic Park. But yeah, it was quite bizarre. As I say, I think the stewards maybe had a quiet evening and needed something to do, but as a whole, when you go to Celtic Park, when you go to Ibrox, it is that case, playing in a bit of hope, really, that the home team has a very big off day and you're bang at it for the full 90 minutes. And unfortunately, we had a couple of lapses in concentration, which cost us dearly. But I think the positives to take from it, as you said, Angus, is the fact that we didn't capitulate. There's a lot of teams that go there 3-0 down at half time and it becomes 4, 5, 6, 7 very, very quickly on the back of that. I think another positive was some people were querying if he was still alive or not. Joel Nubley was back on the bench and he was back on the pitch as well for the final kind of 20 minutes, half an hour. That's a big positive, isn't it?
Massive, yeah. I mean, we've been talking about through most of this kind of season. The first half we had, Nubley playing, and Anderson was struggling for fitness, and it seems as if that reversed as soon as we got like that game against Kilmarnock where we got that comeback to win 3-2, but not many after that, I think, and it's seemed as if ever since then as well that we've not had them both playing at the same time, and I think that's like a massive thing for us to look forward to. We're sitting 5th at the moment, and in all honesty, we've not had a fully fledged front line just yet. We've now got obviously Stephen Bradley in there as well, and I think that's quite an exciting prospect to be looking at. That we've got variation in the forward line as to who can create something or can cause damage to other teams. And for this like next half of the season, the last 16 odd games or something like that, whatever it is. It's something that's a very interesting prospect for us, and hopefully it's one that we can see gelling, very much hopefully on Saturday. But yeah, absolutely delighted to see Newbley come back. He started the season off tremendously well, and he just brings you so much to the team. So yeah, very, very good to see him back. Very much missed over the last couple of weeks, even though we have been picking up points regardless.
Yeah, it's that thing. We've still managed to get those results, haven't we? Despite not having that kind of full front three. And we were obviously at the game at Rugby Park, and Newbley and Bruce together were absolute havoc for Kilmarnock that evening. So I can only imagine if you get the two of them together on a more regular basis in the kind of second half of this season, how far the team could possibly go. And it's a big bonus. Am I suspicious at the fact Joe missed the whole of January and was back in the team on the 1st of February? Call me cynical, but call me cynical. Maybe Davey was playing a little mind game there. I don't know, but look, Joe's back available, and as you say, hopefully he's back fit very, very soon and can start getting back into the side and causing defences a bit of havoc again. We're delighted to have Strana Apparel as sponsors of Talk Livi. UK based with a Swedish soul, we are Strana. Strana is an independent fashion brand from Scotland who create high quality and stylish attire for on and off the terraces. Inspired by terrace culture, lifestyle and music, all their clothing is designed using quality materials and workmanship to combine the very best style and fit. And all of this means you get a premium quality fashion at affordable prices while enjoying a simple and secure service.
As a bonus for Talk Livi listeners, you can get 10% off your order using the code TalkLivi at the checkout. We'll also have some exclusive giveaways during the season, so keep your eyes peeled on our socials for those too. And thanks to Sterner for sponsoring Talk Livi.
Finally, we look ahead to the visit of Kilmarnock to West Lothian and another instalment of El Plastico. It's good to have two teams that really fully appreciate the wonder that is an artificial surface, isn't it, Angus?
Yeah, tremendous. The good guys, as we'd probably call them in all honesty. Everybody else is out of touch. I think we could call ourselves visionaries, leaders, trailblazers and whatnot. Yeah, at least maybe this time there's not going to be any, bitching and moaning about anything other than just the game itself. But who knows? Maybe Euan Cameron it'd be good if the club offered out their services to him to do media duties for this one, and he can take in the two top flights Premier Plastic teams in its finest glory. But yeah, going into this one, it's going to be an interesting one. Kilmarnock are a very, very strange side. I think they've picked up some decent enough results this season, all basically being at home for them. Their away form, I think you just said to me there, they've only picked up 2 points or so, which is quite incredible because I'm assuming they were probably played, at least, double figures of away games so far. So that'll be very, very poor for them so far. But maybe they'll be looking at the fact that they're coming to, an artificial surface and be thinking that they can do a little bit more. They are just kind of like a strange team, from some... I think they beat Hibs, a couple of weeks ago against up at Rugby Park. They've beaten Aberdeen as well. Last night they got a big, massive result against Dundee United, saving a penalty and then, going to score like a winner themselves. But the week before that, they got beat 3-0 for Ross County, who were, not really doing an awful lot. So, yeah, very, very kind of strange side. They're one of the teams who are caught in the kind of kerfuffle at the bottom of the league. They're now sitting 3 points above, 12th and 11th place. I think, 2 points ahead of 10th. Some players, who could cause us a couple of issues. Danny Armstrong's having a very good season. Other than that, though, their main goal scoring exploits were coming from their centre halves, Ash Taylor and Wright, who scored a double against us, at Rugby Park in that game. But Kilmarnock are a very odd team. They've been operating very strangely as well. I don't think a lot of their fans are too impressed with Derek McInnes's tenure in the top flight this season. Their January transfer window dealings, especially on the final day, are genuinely quite baffling. Lafferty leaving on a free transfer, after mutual consent for some reason. Ollie Shaw leaving to go down south as well, with no real proven replacements coming in. It's left them with Christian Deutsch, who's not really kind of necessarily hit the ground running at Kilmarnock. I've actually got a really funny story. There's a person I go to uni with who's a Hibs fan, and he was showing me the Hibs forum. I think it was after the Hearts game.
Now, I think I've seen this, but
uh,
go ahead.
apparently, there's some Hibs fan on one of the Hibs forums who, following the departure of Ryan Porteous and following Rocky Bashiri getting injured, this Hibs fan had the suggestion that Hibs should recall Christian Deutsch and play him as a makeshift centre half, which is maybe an interesting aspect that Derek McInnes should be looking at himself. Who knows?
Well, given his form this season, he's been very good at keeping the ball out the net, hasn't he? Now that I've said that, congratulations, Christian, taking the match ball home at the weekend. I've probably absolutely cursed us there with that comment. It will come back to haunt me, I'm absolutely sure. But yes,
alongside that, though, somebody who'll probably be wanting to come along and haunt us again is Scott Robinson, who obviously we know very well. His time at the club didn't end particularly well. I don't know what the reception that he'll receive on Saturday will be like, in all honesty, because of the manner that things were handled in, and quite strange circumstances as well. And then apart from that, for Kilmarnock as well up front, they've brought in the boy Vassell, but there's a lot of uncertainties within the Kilmarnock side. I think they're a reasonably decent, kind of hard working side, but I think for them the worries will be where the goals will be coming from for the most part. And hopefully we'll be looking at our kind of defensive performances. A 6 clean sheet against Hearts just there. Hopefully kind of building upon that, and the likes of Boys and Fitzwater can continue to have good games. I think for us, we're going to have to be a lot more switched on at set pieces. Remember that game against Kilmarnock at Rugby Park, that every time they got a set piece, we were just like, we're going to concede from this because our marking was absolutely shambolic. But yeah, any other thoughts on Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head with the vast majority of points there. As I said, when I was doing my research on them before we did the preview, I was actually taken aback by the away stat, and that it's 2 games they've drawn, they've lost the other 10 in the league this season, only scored 4 goals away from home. They're averaging conceding 2 goals a game. So their away form's been, no other way of putting it other than shambolic. But what gives me the fear after reading that stat is some of these stats need to come to an end at some point, Angus, which I always talk about when we're coming up against teams on bad runs or things like that. And I hope their away form doesn't pick up, let's say, at the weekend. But as you said, the big threat that they've got just now is Danny Armstrong, I think, and got 6 goals this season, 4 assists as well. So he's been a real creative force for them. Very good goal that he scored against Dundee United last night as well. But as you say, the big thing that we're going to need to be wary of is set plays. I think between the 3 centre backs, Wright, Taylor and Stokes, they've got 10 goals between them this season, which obviously suggests that they're a big threat. They're all big physical guys as well, so we'll need to be very wary when it comes to corners, free kicks in and around their area, that we don't try and avoid giving anything silly away round about the edge of the box, because they're quite clearly a threat from those sort of areas. But as you say, I find Kilmarnock a wee bit baffling in terms of their business that they've done as well. Granted, Lafferty's been out for a long spell with that suspension that he had, and Ollie Shaw, and a team that's struggling at the bottom of the league, you'd want guys that can get you a goal. And Kyle Lafferty, I know a couple of seasons back when Kilmarnock did get relegated, he almost single-handedly got them out of that mess with the goals that he scored. So I do find it a bit bizarre, their business that they've done. But I can always talk about it. I feel like Derek McInnes is a manager that will be able to drag results and just drag them out of that position. I still, there's a bit of me that still believes that he could do that because he's a very good manager, McInnes. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult game because they're scrapping for every point that they can get at the moment. But we've been in decent form as of late. The games this season against Kilmarnock, I think we were very comfortable in the first game at Livi when Christian Montano scored the winner, and I think over the pace at the game at Rugby Park, we were the better side over the 90 minutes as well. So we're more than capable of going and getting another result against them. And look, if you look at this month's fixtures in general, we've had Celtic last night, Kilmarnock at home, Rangers at home, Aberdeen away, Aberdeen having just sacked Goodwin as well. This is probably the game you're pinpointing this month, which is probably in that must-win bracket for us to try and keep that spot in the top 6 and kind of chasing a European spot. So it's a really, really big game for us, and it's El Plastico. It's the derby everyone looks forward to in the Scottish top flight, isn't it? So let's get on to predictions then, Angus. Oh, in fact, before we get on to predictions, you mentioned Scott Robinson as well and what sort of reception he'd get. I think Robbo should get a good reception from Livi fans personally. I know his time at the club came to quite a sour end in the end, and I think it's probably bad advice he's received off an agent. But for the 4 years Scott Robinson was at the football club, I thought he was fantastic, and he was a big, big part of the success in terms of the championship promotion season through the playoffs. He scored important goals to get us to a League Cup final, our first in 17 years. So I think Robbo deserves a good reception personally from Livingston fans, and if he does feature, he'll get a good reception from myself, because I think he was a very good servant for the football club, despite the way things came to an end. But
I think though that's everything you've said there is correct. It's just that manner of it, I think, which will be the swaying factor for a lot of people. We're used to people leaving, we're used to players leaving. It's completely fine. We know very much so that we're kind of like a stepping stone for a lot of people. You look at Jack Fitzwater, who's probably going to leave at the end of the season, no qualms about it. Players in the past like Declan Gallagher saying like a pre-contract for that. Just the way, taking the huff during a game and just leaving and then kind of never returning. I think that kind of shows a real lack of respect to the club in a way. I think as well, what we did for his career as well to kind of make him, a bona fide, top flight player yet again. I think that is where the kind of issue goes, the kind of faith that was put into him, the kind of like chances given as well, based after like injuries and stuff like that he's gone through. I think that's kind of more the aspect that will be the bigger issue. But I fully agree with you in terms of, the cup semi-final and stuff like that, the championship playoff winning side and all that. It's a very nuanced thing for sure. Like, there is no complete definitive answer, but yeah, it's just a very, very strange thing. I was honestly, who knows, maybe in the next couple of years or that we'll find out more information about, what exactly went on with it or whatnot. But yeah, as for now, it's when you putting my house on, I'm getting the best of reactions from the crowd.
and you know what, Angus, I completely understand if some fans have that opinion. I do appreciate that, but I think for kind of one probably moment of ill-judged advice, I don't think it should overshadow what was a very successful 4 years at the football club for me for Robbo. And to be honest, I was actually really glad to see him back playing at Kilmarnock, because I think he was almost a year without a start due to some of the injury problems he's had. And I know we've had him on the podcast and he was blighted by injuries earlier in his career, and Livi gave him that opportunity to come back into full-time football, which I'm sure, if you asked him, he'd be very appreciative of. So yeah, let's get on to the predictions then, Angus. What are we going for?
I'll go 2-0 Livingston.
I was going to go down the same route. Route.
Overtake you in the predictions, and suddenly you're copying.
Now I'm copying you. Hey, I was clearly drinking last Thursday when I predicted my 1-1 at Celtic Park. I'm gonna go 2-0 as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna copy you. Screw it. I don't care. I don't care what you think, Angus, to be honest. You can think what you want to be. I don't care. I'm copying you. Right. But hopefully we do get that result, and it's 3 out of 3 in El Plastico this season.
That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in week in and week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback, so either leave us a review on iTunes or simply message us on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram.
As Angus said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, so search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode over the last few years.
That's it for this week. Thanks again to all our listeners for tuning in. Let's hope for another great week following the Lothian's finest football team.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ambervale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Amberville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier